Hey everyone, welcome to Nurse Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Chris.
And today we are reviewing the season finale. That's right, the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian season 2. That is titled Chapter 16, The Rescue. Now, as we've stated in the previous episode, we had some predictions on how we felt the show was going to go, and we'll get into, whether we were right or wrong or kind of what happened. But for those who are new to the channel, we don't like to dive in spoilers heavy right at the beginning. We like to kind of give you an overview of what we felt about the episode without any spoilers, and then we will warn you before we dive in with spoilers. Now, this is definitely an episode you want to see, so once we get to that spoiler section, if you haven't seen it, stop the video, watch this episode, and then come back and enjoy the kind of exploration as we kind of dig deep. But with that being said, Chris, what did you think of the finale of season 2?
I thought it was fantastic. I thought they did a great job from concluding this chapter in the season. Introducing some other people back in, tying up some loops, some holes. The graphics were great, so I really enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought they did a great job with the effects. I thought they tied up the story excellently. You generally expect a cliffhanger ending, and it wasn't a cliffhanger ending, but it definitely wanted you to kind of want more and kind of figure out, what's going to happen next. They had, like in the first season, they did have a surprise at the end, which I'm sure most fans really appreciated. They had an after credit scene, which was the first for the show, which we'll get into that as well later on. But overall, I felt that they did the characters justice. They ended very, very strong, and I couldn't have, dreamed of it going any other way, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
Alrighty, so there are our thoughts. We really enjoyed the episode. It's definitely an episode that we think you should watch. So at this point on, it's going to be spoiler heavy. We're going to go through the final episode bit by bit, piece by piece, and we're going to kind of break it down, talk about our predictions and how we were right or wrong and all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't watched the episode, now would be your time to bounce out and then come back and catch the rest of the video and give us a thumbs up and whatnot at the end. So with that, let's dive right in. So the episode kind of kicks off with the Slave One shooting down an Empire shuttle, right? We have the Imperial shuttle there. Inside we have the scientist that we saw in the very first season with glasses, who tried to save the child, who's basically, his job was to, I guess, extract the blood of the child, that we find out. And so he's on the ship with, I guess, 2 pilots, and they're headed towards Gideon, because Gideon, as of the last episode, had basically told the guy that they secured Grogu, and that, they want him to come and get the blood and kind of finish his experiments. So they're on their way, and Slave One is tracked them down and is basically taking pot shots at them, disables them, and kind of tells them, like, prepare for boarding, like, we're coming in.
Yeah. I love the scene of, you see the front of the shuttle and then the Slave One just coming up in front of it. It looks so much bigger. Like in some scenes it looks so small, and then in other scenes it looks so big. It's like one, and you realize, throughout the season that you get to see the inside of it. So you see it's actually, quite a large ship. It can hold more than just cargo. It can hold, other passengers and things like that. So very cool to see more of the Slave One.
Yeah, I completely agree. They board. They kind of get in on the ship. The door opens, and one of the pilots grab the scientist, essentially, at gunpoint.
Yes.
And like, you might have to remind me, who was the first one to step through? Was it Mando or was it Bo-Katan? I can't remember who.
So Mando and Cara Dune are the 2 that come in.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the 2 pilots are like, who this is, and Mando's like, yeah, we've seen each other before, and he asks if the child's alive and safe, and the scientist says yes, he is. But then one pilot grabs hold of the scientist and holds him to gunpoint. The other one's like, I'm not with him, like, we can sort this out. And then the other pilot actually shoots his co-pilot and kills him right on the spot. So this is where it kind of goes with Cara Dune, because he sees her eye go that way.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, so like he sees the tattoo, and so she's like, he kind of rips into her, like, oh, you were from Endor, that's not anything anymore. So he's kind of like, I was there on the Death Star, and she makes a comment of which one, which I thought was kind of
that
funny,
was
right?
awesome. Yeah.
So they're kind of poking at, there's 2 Death Stars, and then so but then he goes like, I was there, I saw, how many people were killed and everything like that. So essentially after a little bit back and forth, Cara Dune just shoots him kind of, just
Yep.
one shot, right, headshot, and then they take the scientist from there.
That's it. Take him out, grab the scientists, and so then they're formulating a plan. And so they talk about, okay, so here's a plan. We're gonna have everyone in the shuttle that's gonna basically go and try to sneak on board, and we're gonna have Boba Fett kind of as we come out of hyperspace. You're gonna start shooting us essentially. So it looks like
Yeah.
that we're on, trying to escape this attack. And so we're going to be like trying our best to get inside and land and hail them. So let us in. And so they have this plan. And then they're hopefully, out of the franticness of being attacked by the Slave One, they'll open the doors and let them come right in. So that's their plan. Yeah. And so it seems very successful. And so they kind of put the plan into action. And as they head out of hyperspace and this is taking place, what happens there? Moff Gideon is there. They see the hail. They say, oh, help, we're being chased. Looking for landing. And so Moff Gideon says, launch some TIE fighters. And so they say, oh, you can't land right now. We're launching some TIE fighters or whatever. And so they launch a few TIE fighters out. I think it's 2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, and then she's basically making her way and starts boarding. And she's like, I'm coming in, and they're like, no, negative. You have to stay back where that's being used. And they're like, too bad, I'm being chased. I'm coming in. Like, you can't stop me kind of thing.
She's coming in hot. Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, hold the next TIE fighter back. Like, get out of the way. And so they're all clearing the way. They do this crash landing right through and land inside the ship. Moff Gideon kind of knows something's up right away. And they kind of get there and land. And the Slave One basically takes out the TIE fighters and beams out. I'm out of here.
And he goes back into hyperdrive. But so once they landed, it was like so easy. He like shoots backwards, bam, bam, takes him out right away, and then just bolts off. But he was letting them chase him for a while as a decoy until they landed.
Exactly. And the funny thing is like Moff Gideon's watching this and is like, okay, he took those guys out without any issue. Why was he having so much trouble taking out the shuttle? Like it's almost like he knew like something was up, which is really cool. Like to show his skill. Like Boba Fett like can take out enemies no problem. So that was awesome. So they land, they get in there, and they basically come out shooting, right? They come out and they start taking out some stormtroopers and whatnot as they're making their way. Now Mando stays behind because his job is he took the scientist code cylinder, and his job was to go in and to deactivate the dark troopers because he told them. So the scientist shared with them the plans that they have them all in this room and that they were very dangerous, and this is the cell that Grogu's being held, and kind of give them a lay of the land. So they make this plan of Bo-Katan and Cara Dune and Fennec Shen and whatnot. They're all going to go out, cause a distraction when Mando can sneak in and try to get Grogu out while they're all basically dealing with them. And Bo-Katan makes it clear, like, no one go after Moff Gideon, he's mine. Like, and then Cara Dune's like, well, the New Republic needs to take him in, whatever. She goes, I don't care what you do, whatever. Once he surrenders to me, like, you can do whatever you want, but he needs to surrender to me. He needs to like face me. And so I thought that was interesting because the first time I watched it, I didn't really understand what that was, and then after watching it a second time, it made sense why she was talking about that. But so the plan takes in place. They board. They start killing guys. Mando stays behind. They're making their way through, and of course, Moff Gideon sees them kind of shooting their way through, and so he says, activate the dark troopers. So they kind of start powering it up, and they know it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to power up. So at this point, as they're kind of shooting and making their way to the bridge, Mando starts coming out. And it's like,
sneaking out.
Empty hallways, and he's trying to make his way to the room. And as he's going down different hallways, some troopers pass by. So he's kind of doing it as stealth as possible.
Now, I just remember something that we missed. So after they took the scientists, Cara Dune and Mando, they go to find, what's her name? Bo-Katan and her sidekick. So they go to a cantina, and they find her, and that's where Boba Fett and Mando go to Bo-Katan and her associate. Now this is funny because
yes, you're right.
When Boba Fett starts talking, she's like, "You're not a Mandalorian," and he says, "I never said I was." So he's not trying to claim that he is a Mandalorian, like part of a Mandalorian group or anything. But he just says it belongs to me because of my father. He means and then she says, "You mean your donor?" Because she knows he's a clone. So she's like, I've heard that voice so many times. And then Boba Fett says, mine might be the last one you ever hear.
That's right.
Kind of thing. So they kind of have that butting of heads. And then actually Boba Fett and Bo-Katan's psychic kind of get into a wrestling
Yes,
match,
that's
which
right.
I
I
think she
forgot
does
that.
some wrestling moves, which is funny because she's a professional wrestler
Yes,
on
she is.
WWE or whatever.
Yes, she is.
So it's
Sasha,
funny to see them in,
Sasha, something. Sasha Brown, something like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So it's funny to see her like do a
Sasha Banks.
wrestling
Sorry.
Sasha type move, a wrestling type move. So that, I don't know if they threw that in just to kind of give her homage to like her sport. But I thought that was very cool. But it was cool to see the interaction between Bo-Katan and Mandalorian kind of
Mm-hmm.
being the mom and dad, and then the two kids fighting kind of thing, and then them just saying stop it, and then them coming to agreement saying I'll come with you as long as I get the dark saber and the ship. And
That's right.
yeah, the Mandalorian is like, you can have whatever you want. I just want the child. Kind
That's
of thing.
right.
So that's where they team up. Yeah.
That's right. And
So
that was
I thought
important.
that was a cool part.
That's important because she was saying that she wants the dark saber, and then they had their terms. Because initially she was like, yeah, I'm not going. There's nothing there for
Yeah.
me. And then when he
I'm
confirms
not a
like Moff
bounty
Gideon's
hunter.
there, and she's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's there. Like, okay, I want it. That's what I'm coming for. And I thought it was important, this whole battle scene, because I think it was trying to show them that Boba Fett we saw in the last episode where he reclaimed his armor, that he was taking on stormtroopers, like he still got it. He can take everyone out without little effort. Like he is a warrior. He is a bounty hunter. He's like really good. He's not an easy foe to vanquish. And so with him kind of fighting against this Mandalorian sidekick, and she was able to hold her own against Boba Fett, someone of his caliber, it just goes to show you that they are well trained as well, and they're all really good warriors. They're all really good fighters. They're not just, they're people who know how to fight. These are like the elitists of the elitists. The Mandalorians are standing out of like, there are something special about these characters, and it's not just whether you're born from blood or you're trained. It's just everything about them. They are like the top end killers, fighters, kind of this type of what do you want to call it? Like they come from the same cloth, if you will, right? Like they're just inherently warriors. And so the fact that she was able to hold her own against this amazing killer, this like world-renowned bounty hunter of Boba Fett, and all of his skills, it just goes to show you that, like, yeah, whether you are blood or not, you are still like, can still hold your toe against a true Mandalorian, or vice versa. If you thought the true Mandalorians weren't as bad, as amazing as these foundlings, it just goes to show you that they're all like to be feared kind of thing, right? So I thought that was really cool, and kind of set some stuff up later on, I think, and we'll get to that. But yeah, that was a great catch on that scene. So that's how they get everyone recruited. So while they're on the ship and they're making their way down, there's this awesome move where Bo-Katan wraps the guy with her little cord, and then like jetpacks and knees him in the face, like just this really cool moves of like this other combat that you don't really see, right? And I thought that was
how
really
they
awesome.
Incorporate, that jetpack's really important to their culture or clan.
Yeah.
And they've trained and learned to use that, because you have to earn the jetpack first of all, and then once you earn that, you can train and do these different moves of flying up, and later on we see a time when they use it again, not too far after this scene, but they can like, even during the Boba Fett and the sidekick fight, she jetpacks and like throws them over, so she uses it even then. So they're like this incorporated in part of their, just like their gun, their blasters or their swords, or any other equipment that they might have as part of their fighting technique.
It's an extension of them, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I thought that was so cool.
Really cool. So they're going on. They're fighting through. They're making their way towards the bridge. We see cut back to Mando, as I said, kind of sneaking through and trying to find his way to the holding cell. And obviously, his first priority
he was supposed to go to
is the Dark Troopers. That's his first priority, is to shut them down, to keep them from being launched. So
that's right, because they gave him the scientist's key, which would lock it, and then no one else could open it, kind of thing.
Yeah. So he's obviously it's taking him a little while to find his way there, while trying to stay stealthily. And as he's kind of going through, we see him kind of get he bumps into a couple of stormtroopers, where he ends up using his Beskar spear and takes out some of them. Is is this episode, right? Where he's choking one? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
He chokes one out and whatnot. It's just really cool. It's like the scene where you see Darth Vader where he's choking somebody, you see the feet dangling, and he's using his spear to do it. It's not like force or anything like that. Takes out some stormtroopers. Again, he's getting detained. He's trying to get there within a few minutes. We see like the power bars rising. We see like the the bolts and pipes kind of fly off the droids as they're kind of awakening and powering up and kind of getting ready to go, and they're all like forming and whatnot in the room. And then we kind of keep getting cut back to the other guys as they're fighting their way. Cara Dune's gun jams at one point. There's some funny comment about that, and she's trying to fix it, and I think Fennec makes a comment of like, "You want me to fix that for you?" or something like that.
Yeah.
And
you sure you don't want some help? She's
yeah.
like, "No, I got it." Just like
slams it down, fixes it, and it's like, yeah, even the good guys' weapons can get jammed or have problems. It's, you know, it is what it is, and it's just some nice.
They kind of get pinned on the bridge as well, right? They're like, oh, it's quiet, a little too quiet, so they kind of realize that, you know, it's kind of a setup as well. They know that they're coming, but let two of the Mandalorians go down, jump off, and then Cara Dune and Fennec Shen are kind of there and surrounded, and then the Mandalorians fly back up and use their jetpack and then shoot them down, and they kind of give a smile back to them, like they all work well together.
Absolutely,
which is funny to see and great to see.
So I mean, at the behest of some slight delays, they finally get to the bridge, in which they take out a lot of the guys there, take out the troopers and stuff, and so they kind of get there and they're looking. So Bo-Katan right away is like, where's Moff Gideon? And they're like going through, I guess, the controls and stuff and trying to, I don't know if they're necessarily stopping the course of the ship, but like taking control of the bridge. And Mandalorian is making his way, and then he noticed that the door for the droid starts opening, and so he's like, "Oh no, I'm late!" So he kind of runs there, shoves in the key, starts closing the door, and then as the doors are closing, the droids start marching towards the door. So he grabs out his weapons, and then you see the droid's hands kind of grab and pry the door open. So he starts trying to shoot them. One droid makes one dark trooper essentially makes its way out as the doors shut the other ones in. And so now he's got to fight this thing. So he starts shooting it. Bullets are bouncing off its armor. He tries burning it. Does nothing. The thing like knocks him out. Knocks him to the ground, essentially. He gets back up. He starts trying to figure out ways to fight it. It starts, I think it pins him against the wall and starts punching his helmet, right?
It starts punching.
While the other ones are punching the glass trying to break out of this cell. And they're like, because they're these top-end droids, they have these hydraulic arms that can just battering ram through anything. And so they're fighting, and he's realizing like none of his weapons are effective against this armor. His blasters aren't working. His flames. He tries to. I don't remember. Does he try to? No, he doesn't try to.
He does the whistling birds.
The whistling birds, which do nothing to him as well. He's like
kind of just tick.
Yeah. At odds. So he's there, and then eventually, I guess he decides to use his Beskar spear. And it's able to do some damage, right? It's Beskar.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's
right
strong.
through his head and knocks his head kind of half off.
That's right. And so he destroys him with a spear after getting pummeled a bit while the other people are on the bridge. And so then he runs to the door and kind of opens up the external doors to essentially vacuum them out. Yeah, the airlock. That's it. And suck them out into space. And he's kind of like, there, dealt with that. Now, I knew right away. I don't know if you did, Chris. I was like, these are droids. They're not going to die in space. How did they get
Grogu?
They got jetpacks. They're coming back. This is the first thing that I'm thinking, right? And so that was funny. And he's just like, yes, we got him out. And so they're out in space. He's taking a breath. And so the people, it kind of cuts back to them on the bridge. And I think they're looking through security cameras. And they're kind of like trying to figure out like where Moff Gideon is and kind of what's going on. I don't remember. Do they see Mando on the camera yet? No, they didn't yet.
They don't see Mando.
Yeah. So they're there and they're trying to figure out. I think she was flipping through screens trying to figure out where he was or what's kind of going on. So he makes his way to the door. Grogu's holding cell, and he opens it, and we see Moff Gideon with the darksaber extended over Grogu's head, and just staring at Mando like, "You take a step, I'm killing him." And Grogu's there, and he's got his hand in these force binding cuffs, so he can't use his force powers. His hands are cuffed, and I'm like, this little tiny infant is like handcuffed, so innocent.
He looks so drained and everything, just like helpless there and just tired and
So he comes in, he's like, lower your blaster, toss it to me, all this kind of stuff. And so he does it. And then he's like, always assume that I'm like one step ahead of you. Like I know everything. It's like, I know you use your whistling birds and you don't have any more left. I know,
I know you're traveling with Bo-Katan and she's after this, my darksaber. Obviously she's killed everyone. She's at the bridge by now, realizing I'm not there, and she's ruthless, and you'll learn that she's ruthless and only wants one thing, and so on. So I thought that the dialogue between the two of them was kind of interesting, and how he goes on to say, I don't want anything else. I'm just, trying to do my thing. And essentially he kind of makes a deal with Mandalorian. And Mando's like, I don't care. Like, you can keep the darksaber. I just want the child.
That's all I came for. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Gideon's like, well, I'll agree that you take the child. I already got everything I need from him, the blood.
Yep.
All I need was the blood from this guy, and I have enough from it, so I don't need him anymore. So you can take him, but leave my ship and never come back. Like we'll never see each other again, kind of thing.
He also said that
So
the
I
blood
thought,
will be
oh,
used to create order in the galaxy. And I was like, oh, first
yes,
order. Like they're dropping that word
yes,
out, you know? And again, I'm thinking, okay, that creature must have been Snoke, an early prototype of Snoke, and this whole cloning, it
I think
must be,
so.
right?
Yeah,
Hence, the
yeah,
force powers and all that kind of stuff, making sure that he was injected to have that blood in this clone while Palpatine's pulling the strings in the background. The Snoke being, while technically isn't actual Palpatine, it does have blood in it, and it has Palpatine's influence and stuff like that. So I guess technically J.J. Abrams saying like, oh, it wasn't like it is a new character, it isn't someone that is kind of true from that perspective, right? That certain point of view.
yeah.
So I think that's where we're getting at, unless they surprise us in episode 3 with something else with the blood. But I think that's kind of what the plan was there.
I think so.
But you're right. He makes that deal, and so he turns off the darksaber, and so Mando kind of goes down, and when he goes to grab Grogu, he pulls out the saber and starts hacking, and so he's got to defend, and again, just like the lightsaber, he's blocking with his armor and trying to fight, and so they kind of go at it. He grabs his spear, and they're fighting. It's an awesome battle.
Yes.
Gideon gets a few moves on him, and then Mando ultimately ends up disarming him at the end.
Yes.
Really cool battle. I just thought it was really raw, and it just like Mando's trained in a variety of weapons, and he was able to hold his own with this spear, which it's the first time we saw him use a spear. It was the magistrate's weapon. She fought against Ahsoka with it, and now you see him doing the same thing, and it was really cool
Right.
battle moment.
Yeah.
Disarms him. He's about to kill him and doesn't. He has him pinned down with the spear at his neck, and he spares him. He says, "That's interesting. You're sparing me." And then he makes a comment about I guess like that blade's yours.
This will be interesting, kind of thing. Yeah, this will be interesting. You just beat me in battle. The darksaber is now yours.
And of course, he has no idea.
If he planned this or whatever. If he I don't know. It didn't seem like he lost on purpose. It seemed like he lost legit to the to Mando. But as soon as he lost him, like, oh man, now he's like the ruler of Mandalore, because those are the rules. Whoever wields the darksaber technically is the leader of all Mandalore.
Yeah.
And the Mandalorians. So I was like, oh man, how is this going to play out with Bo-Katan? I'm like, is this going to be season 3 where they battle? We'll get into this later, but so it was very interesting to see Gideon kind of smirk and be like, oh, I want to see what's going to happen here.
That's right. So Mando basically takes him back, and so he's coming back, and then the doors open, and he comes in, and he's in handcuffs. Bo-Katan's face is in shock, and she's kind of like, what happened? What's going on here, right? And Mando walks in, and so he's like, oh, bringing in a prisoner. Was it Cara Dune that said that? Someone made a comment of like, oh, bringing in a prisoner or something like that.
Yeah, he's bringing him alive.
That's it. It's going to cost double for the Republic or whatever, right, to pay for him or something like that. And so he comes in, and he's got the darksaber. And so now Gideon starts poking the bear, and he starts making
Gideon's
comments.
like, that's not what she's talking about. Like, that's not what she's asking. What's going on here? What the hell's going on here? Kind of thing. Like,
exactly. And so he starts to manipulate, and it's like a great moment where he's like, are you gonna go kill him now? And they're like, shut up, and they're really upset with him, and so
and Mando has no clue. He's like, what are you talking about? Like,
yep.
What do you mean?
And so he's like, are you gonna tell them? And he's like, the darksaber, like you fought for me, it's rightfully yours, you're the new leader and stuff like that. And he's like no. He walks over, he's like, it's yours, like I'm only willing to give it over. And she's like, no, she can't accept it. She goes, it's a story behind it that makes it real. Otherwise, she's just like like a fake, false leader.
A fake lead, like a false, kind of thing.
Yeah, she's like, she has to win it in battle. But then this is interesting, because you and me had a conversation about this, and we're pretty
and he
sure.
Goes, I concede.
I concede. I give it to you.
Gives it to her. Yeah.
And
but
she was saying
she didn't fight Sabine for the darksaber.
In Rebels, she handily gave it over. She said, "You're the rightful leader. You're taking it." Yeah. So Sabine earned it. She went down. They got it. The whole zombie situation and all that kind of stuff. They did the whole thing in Rebels. They got the saber, and she handed her over to Katan. They didn't fight, as far as I remember.
No.
And again, fans, correct me if I'm wrong. Drop a comment below. But I do not remember a fight between Sabine and Bo-Katan. She rightfully gave it over and said, like, you're the new leader. This belongs to you, and that's what happened. And that's canon. And then it's coming here, and Bo-Katan saying, like, no, I have to fight for that right. I'm like, that just seems really weird.
Because it's not like Bo-Katan and Sabine are from the same clan, right?
No, because Sabine was
they're
Ren.
different clans.
Yeah, they were different,
clan,
different symbols.
Yeah. So it's not like Mando's any different than Sabine was in that sense.
Now, could it
So
be something
yeah,
to do with like if a Mandalorian, like if it's a true blood, born Mandalorian can give it, but because he was a foundling, he's not really Mandalorian, so maybe she has to fight it. Maybe it's something to
possibly
do with that. That's the only out that I could give them, because Serene was like the part of that family
born on
line, and
man.
so
Yeah,
she was deserving. But she says, "No, I want this family to rule and not me." She didn't want that on her shoulders, so she was part of a bloodline, part of a royalty, I guess you can say, as far as the Mandalorians are concerned. And obviously, Din Djarin and Boba Fett, or Jango was a foundling, and he was a clone of foundling, so they're not true blooded Mandalorians. So I don't know if that
yeah.
has something to do with it, and I guess we'll find out if they
But
address
if you can
this.
see, yeah, I guess, like as long as he surrenders, but I guess after battle before he surrenders or something
It's like,
like
okay, swing at me. I surrender.
yeah,
I don't understand,
yeah,
but this was the only thing that we thought was a little odd, but it was what it was. So, it has this contention of like, Bo-Katan wants to be a leader. This is rightfully hers. She wants to do right by her code, which is like she needs to battle for it, and she's willing to do whatever it takes. So now, her and Mando could potentially be at odds, even though Mando's like, I don't want it. It's yours. I have no
yeah.
beef with
Like
you.
the deal was
Like,
a deal.
yeah.
You get the dark saber, and I get the child. Like that. That was the deal. Kind of. He has no wants or anything to go to Mandalore. Maybe not yet, but maybe in the next season he
That's what's
might.
going to
But
be interesting, right? We'll see
yeah,
where we go. So they're all talking, and Gideon's there, and I think at one point they knock him to the floor, and so he falls on a step, and there's like a gun, a blaster there, so he kind of covers it with his cape. And then there's some beeping going on, and then they see
yeah.
that there are a bunch of stuff approaching
The
the ship.
shields are down.
Yep,
Yeah,
and then they realize the Dark Troopers are on their way back. And so Gideon smiles and he's like, "Yeah, the Dark Troopers are coming." He says, "You had trouble with one. How? Let's see how you fare against a whole platoon, right?" And so they'll
yeah.
land, and they're all making their way towards the bridge. And so they check the cameras and they see all these things. I think there's like 20, maybe 40 or 30. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a bunch.
there's quite a few.
So they're there on the bridge, and so they're marching, and Gideon sings some stuff, and so they get upset with them and tell them to shut up, and they're all preparing, like they're gonna have to make their
They
stand.
tell them
So
to close the blast doors and like
yeah, they lock the doors, and
they're
they all
all
get their guns at the ready, and a small sect of this squadron, this platoon, makes their way to the bridge, and they're at the door, and so the two in the front put away their guns, and they just like get their arms in this like hydraulic position, and they just start punching the door
boom,
with
boom.
full power, and slowly it starts to dent and starts to bend, and they're slowly making their way through these doors. So this is all going on. They're all there at the blaster. Gideon's saying like, it's only a matter of time. All you will all be dead except for me and the child. It's gonna the inevitability. All this kind of stuff. There's no hope. I think he even says that word. I think he mentions that or something like that. And they're all there and they're all waiting for the worst. And the door you kind of see bending. You kind of see it starting to get to the point where it's going to open. And then we hear another beep, 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 beep. And they see someone's approaching, and we see out the window there's an X-wing that flies by. So I'm thinking, hey, Dave Filoni's coming in. Here comes the New Republic. They're coming for launch.
Yeah,
It lands, and they're like, oh, it's just a single TIE fighter. And so at this point, I'm thinking to myself, okay, this could be
Red 5.
Could this be like Filoni or that other dude, the other guy, kind of show up and then backup's on its way
and stuff like that.
And and then when that hooded figure comes out, I'm like, oh boy, okay, so this is a Jedi. So is this Luke? Is Luke coming back? Are we getting Luke, or is this Ahsoka who managed to get a thing, or is this Ezra? These are the three thoughts coming to my mind. Cal is out of my head already. I was thinking it's not gonna be Cal, but these are the three. What were you thinking at this point?
So as soon as I saw the X-wing land by itself, I knew it was Luke because he had it on the planet on at the end of the Force Awakens, or what was that, Tutu, or I don't remember the island name, but he had it there. He had it after Episode 6, so that was like his X-wing that he always flew. So right there, I was like, oh, a single X-wing, like that's got to be Luke. And then seeing the cloaked figure and then the green lightsaber, I'm like, yeah, last time I saw Luke, it was the green lightsaber. So I'm like, it's got to be him. Like I was maybe wishful thinking and hoping. And I was like, let's be Luke.
Yeah,
so
and then the Grogu kind of perks up as he lands. I'm like, oh, this Force connection. There's definitely a Jedi here, right? Like you got it right away, and it was all like him reaching out. He definitely made contact with someone. So
yes,
we had predicted that the potential people could have been Mace Windu. We figured it could have been an Ezra. It could have been Cal Kestis, and we even talked about the potential of it being Luke, but with him being off on the island, and then if this was Luke, Grogu doesn't show up in the sequel trilogy, and then there's no way that Kylo Ren would have killed him as one of the students that he killed when he formed the Knights of Ren. So I didn't think that it was 100% like, could this be Luke? But we see a single lightsaber.
But during this time, I guess he was trying to find other Jedi to start his new temple and start his training, right? So
that's right.
Yeah, it was like 50-50. It could have maybe, depending. But yeah, the timeline, we weren't sure.
Absolutely. So as this hooded figure comes out in a dark robe, and then we see a single lightsaber on the camera. We're watching from the security camera footage, so it's black and white, so you can't see the blade yet. But I saw a single blade, so I'm like, okay, it's definitely not Ahsoka. So this is either going to be Ezra or it's going to be Luke, because Mace don't fight with no hood on. So I'm like, this ain't Mace. And so I'm like, this is gonna be Luke or Ezra. And so then we cut back and we see color. We see it's a green saber. So again, Ezra has a green saber, Luke has a green saber, and as they're fighting, I'm getting more and more Luke vibes because we see his belt, we see the black shirt, we see the green saber, and then the black glove. And so I'm like, this is really looking like Luke. But again, they could be throwing us a red herring here, and then surprise, it's Ezra who's wearing black gloves and whatever. Who knows? So they're fighting. The best part is he is just destroying these droids. Cutting through them like butter.
Deflecting blaster shots.
Flipping and
slicing
cutting
them
and
away,
moving and just
force pushing.
Like nothing matters. And it was great because this is
OG.
what people wanted. This is what they expected from their hero. And as we get through, as he's going through and slicing a whole bunch, he makes his way to the elevator. He hops into the elevator and we see that like the ding, 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 whatever. There's a bunch of droids that stop punching. They kind of turn and the doors open. And he comes up, they start shooting at him. He comes up, deflects, we see him through the camera, destroying them. And as he gets down to the last one, there's a dark side force choke, force crush that he uses to just crumple and crush and just destroy the droid. That I'm like, ooh, this guy's using dark side. Is this Luke? We've never seen Luke use the dark side like this, other than when he used his anger to fight Vader.
He's dressed in black and everything.
Yeah, so I'm like, could this be Ezra? Because Ezra had used, he had tapped into kind of both sides with Maul and the whole Rebels thing. So I was still like, this could be Ezra. Like, where are we going here? And then when he gets to the bit, and Mando's like, open the doors. And they're like, no, are you crazy? We can't do that. And so Mando puts Grogu down, and he opens the door. The door opens. The figure comes, takes the hood off, and it is Luke. It is Luke Skywalker. He's got his CGI on his face. It's played by Mark Hamill. It's his body. I noticed his hand. It was him. But they did the Tony Stark, the Chris Evans, the CGI, the young Leia from Rogue One to kind of make him look younger, which they did in even Rise of Skywalker with him and Leia. They did and it looked amazing, like way better than the other times. I'm like, they did a spot on job. It didn't look that bad, and I guess they just made sure that Mark Hamill stood extremely still to make sure that the face lined up and didn't look off at all. And then when he spoke, he didn't open his mouth too wide. It was very like, yes, I'm here, blah, blah, blah. So his mouth barely moved so
his
that
mouth
the CG would work.
Yeah, it was very small movement, so it was like kind of hard to even see the words. Like,
but it worked.
Like if you were to read his lips, but it did work for sure.
Yes, it was believable.
And it looked very good, especially for a TV show. Like,
yes.
Like, I know you and I were talking, and it's like, wow, like their budget is nothing similar to what a movie is. And they made it look as good as they could, and even better than some of the old movies, right? Like,
they did
it's fantastic what they did. Yeah.
So he came out.
I was very impressed.
And he's like talking about Grogu, and he's there for the child, and he's going to take the child with him to train him and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, okay, Luke's the one that reached out, and they brought Luke into the TV show, and like a young Luke, and not just a young Luke, like the fighting, amazing, like trained Jedi Master. Just what we expected, that what everyone thought we would see, him tearing through people like nothing. We got that in this show, which is just, again, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, they know what we want. They just did us right by Star Wars, and I thought it was just a great moment. And it gets even better. Luke is here, and he's talking about the child, and the child kind of looks up at Mando, and he says, oh, he doesn't want to go with you. And he says, no, he's waiting for your permission. And I'm like, oh, man. Like, because, again, Luke can hear his thoughts. He can speak to him, and I thought that was cool. And he's like, no, he's looking for your permission. Like, he's your kid, and it's like, you've got to give him up. And I was like, oh, man, they're going to get us. They're going to pull at our heartstrings right now. And so he kind of grabs him and picks him up, and he's like, it's okay, you got to go with him, he's your kind, he's going to train you, this is what's best for you. And Grogu kind of reaches up for his face, for his helmet. And so I'm like, oh, and Mando's just staring at him, and I'm like, oh man, this is like so like touching, because like this is his like dad essentially. And and Mando does something again against his code, and he removes his helmet. He does it, and it's in front of everyone else that hasn't seen him. Cara Dune, Bo-Katan, everyone now sees his face, and it's just this moment of like, man, I've given up everything for you, and now I'm gonna give you up. Like, I care about you. You're my
ultimate
world.
Sacrifice.
Dude, he was the Dadalorian, man. He was the true dad. Just, I was tearing up. And then, of course, Grogu reaches for his face, it touches his face, and I think he did it so that
Mando closes his eyes.
Yeah, and he said,
they feel that connection.
He's like, I promise I'll come for you. Like, I'll come back to see you. Like,
we'll see each other again.
Yes, and I was like, oh, this is so like he can remember him, his face. This is who he is. I will be back. Like, I care about you. Like, don't forget about me. And I thought this was such a heartwarming moment. And so he puts Grogu down, and then R2 comes in. And R2's there and whistling, and so Grogu sees R2, and so Grogu kind of walks over. R2 gets excited, starts rocking over. And then he kind of reaches up to Luke, and Luke grabs him and picks him up. And, this is the part where it's a little shady for me, because I was just taking it all in. Luke had some more words for Mando, right? There was a couple more.
He said, he kind of gives him a head nod and says, may the force be with you, and then turns.
So there was no other conversation about, like, okay. I thought there was another dialogue. But yeah, so then he basically goes, kicks the child, and walks away, and Mando's, like, looking at him. Mando's teary-eyed, and he's like, it's okay, like, everything's gonna be fine, and the child's looking at him, and so they kind of walk away, and they head to the elevator, and then essentially the door closes, and that's how it ends. It's like, that's end credits, and I was just like, oh man, like, Mando is teary-eyed. Everyone knows who he is now, like Cara Dune, everyone, like, it just doesn't matter. Creed be like, I don't care about the dark saber.
Now he can kind of take his helmet off whenever he wants now, kind of thing. Like
he was ready to be like, it's you and me to the end of the world, and then Luke shows up, and Grogu like felt it. And Grogu's like, I'm looking for your permission. He's like, crap, like my whole thing was like trying to get pawn him off on Ahsoka, trying to find his people. That's my job. And then it got to the point where he's like, no, this is my kid. He's staying with me. And then it was like, now I've got to give you up. And he did what was best for Grogu. And I thought that was so amazing. Yes. And it's like, he's not just this whole cold-hearted killer as we've all come to know. And yeah, he is more of a father figure. He is a caring figure. He is a warrior nonetheless, but still he has these emotions, and it's just this raw human nature that I thought was just so great that they were able to convey in this character. And it was just like, man, like, it just hit home. I just thought they did such a great moment there for Star Wars. But I mean, I've been talking for a while, Chris. I mean, why don't you share your thoughts here?
No, I agree. Like, they kind of showed that when they had that episode where they land on that, kind of desolate thing. We first meet Cara Dune, the AT-ST is there that is attacking the village and stuff. But he almost stays at that village with that girl that he met to live the good life, because, the girl's like, oh, this is a great place for your kid, a great place for you. But he realizes that, it's not time for him to take off his helmet, and that, he still needs to protect the child. So that's where we kind of see that he's kind of thinking of settling down, making a family with him and Grogu. But now we really see the connection that they have. The touching, the actual first time they've actually touched, like, he's always had gloves on, and like his, like his outfit and things like that. And his helmet was always on. So this is the first time they've touched, skin to skin, saw each other face to face, and that kind of thing. So I thought it was really, really heartwarming and such a cool scene. And to see Luke come back as like so I wasn't sure about why he was still wearing his black outfit.
That was the last outfit he had from Return of the Jedi, right? I mean, that was his.
Yeah, but like, that was like in the first movie, it was like a white outfit that he was wearing, like the tunic from Tatooine. The second one was like a gray one in the second movie, and then the third one was like the black one, because it's like, oh, maybe he's kind of feeling that dark side. He can go either way. But then even at the end, after the battle, there's a little part of the black
that's white
tunic where it's gray on the other side.
Was it gray? I thought it was white. But yeah.
It could be, but it's like, still, it's like, oh, the light colors underneath is kind of breaking back open because I chose, my father and beat the Emperor that way. So I was kind of surprised, and to see him use the dark side a little bit still. So maybe he still has that rawness in him, even though he's like a Jedi Master.
Or maybe he feels like that because he chose like light over darkness in the end, that he has control. He's the light side, and he feels like he can use these powers without giving into his emotion, which is the whole point. Yeah. It's not about using the power that drives you to the dark side. It's when you're fueling your anger to cause it to come out, and your hate and your rage.
The anger and your
exactly. And he was calm, and he was cool, and he was like,
like, he was just very fluid and like just so badass. To be honest, like he was like going ham on them. So it was great to see. Like this is what everyone wanted from Luke, like you said, from the Rise of Skywalker and everything when he was battling like Kylo. Like we never got to see him in the three movies, well, the second and third of the trilogy part.
Mm-hmm.
Really fight at all. So it was great to see that.
Yeah, it was really well done. And I actually forgot a very important scenes when he first arrives and realizes that Jedi. Moff Gideon starts to freak out, and then he grabs a gun and he starts to try to shoot them. And then he realizes that they got Beskar on, so then he turns and tries to shoot the child and shoots 2 or 3 shots. And Mando jumps in front and takes them in the chest, and so then they just knock him. Oh no! Then he stops, puts the gun to his head, tries to kill himself.
Yes.
And the Cara Dune knocks it out and knocks him in the face and knocks him down. So he was willing to take himself out because he didn't want to be captured by the Jedi. He was so feared of this Jedi. I guess he knew who it was, right? Because 5 years after he destroyed the Emperor, he destroyed the Death Star. He knew who Luke was, and he's like, "Oh man, I've got to get out of here. Like this is not good." But no, they didn't let him take the easy way out. I thought that was really cool. So he is still around. Yeah. There was no Thrawn moment. We guessed that there might be a Thrawn show up. They dropped him by name, but I mean, again, they dropped Boba Fett's foot in the first season to breadcrumbs, and then he showed up in the second season. And it's very possible this is breadcrumbs for Thrawn to show up either in the Ahsoka show or in a future Mandalorian episode or both.
Oh yeah, for sure. He'll show up in some aspect for sure. In a crossover or something, I think.
Yes. Now let's jump ahead to a credit scene. So we're watching credits, and Mandalorian never has an after credit scene, but at the end there was a surprise where we kind of get shot at. We see the twin sons of Tatooine. We zoom in on Jabba's palace, and we know Jabba the Hutt's dead. It goes inside. We see some Gamorrean guards. We have a person on a chain, and we see who's sitting in Jabba's throne is Bib Fortuna. He's back. He's fat. He's living large. He's taken over since Jabba's dead. He's still got his crew. He's got like these pirates, whatever. And then we hear some bullets shot. And so he sends some people up the stairs, and more people get killed. And we see Fennec Shand come down, and after she takes all of his guards, she sees that the slave on the chain who's trying to get away. She shoots the chain, tells her to get out of here, like you're free. And the guy's like speaking, but we don't have any subtitles yet for what Bib Fortuna is saying. And then we see another shadow. We see the Mandalorian shadow, but it's essentially Boba Fett's helmet. Boba Fett comes down the stairs, and it's just like, oh no, this is happening. And so Boba Fett comes down. This is what his plan was. And Bib Fortuna's like, Boba, it's been so long. How's it going, my friend? This is great. I'm so glad you're back. We can do all this stuff. And Boba just shoots him and just takes him out. Yeah. No kidding around. You're dead. You're out of the picture. He falls forward. Boba Fett just walks up, pushes him out of the throne, puts his gun down, sits down on his new throne, and Fennec Shand comes around with this blue liquid, and man, it's like, we're back. This is our domain. That
was his plan from the whole. That was why he and Fennec were going to meet. They wanted to, take over the underworld again, and do that. But he wanted his armor first before doing that.
Yes, so. and then it cuts to black, and we see the Book of Boba Fett, and it is coming December 21. And I've confirmed this is not a book. This is a new TV show. Was not announced when all the big Disney
they wanted
live
to keep
stream,
it a secret.
Yeah, where they're announcing all their shows and their plans to all the investors. This was not that. This was a surprise. A brand new show that is coinciding with Mandalorian. So we got the Rangers of the New Republic, we have the Ahsoka show, we have Mandalorian, and now we have the Book of Boba Fett, all taking place
all in the same timeline.
Crossovers and appearances. So it is so exciting. We're going to get a full-on Boba Fett show. They showed us what he can do in his ship. They showed us what he can do with his armor.
Oh,
it is exciting. It's what we want from Boba Fett. They gave us what we want in Mandalorian. They're giving us more via show. They gave us what we want with the Mandalorian. They gave us what we want from Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. It is a great time to be a Star Wars fan. Phenomenal surprise at the end. Great end to a season. But overall, I just thought it couldn't have been any better. Like, this was just the cream on the crop. Like, yeah, it would have been cool if Mace had shown up or if Ezra. But, man, Luke just was the best pick. It was the best pick, especially because they got him to look as young as they did. It didn't look bad.
Yeah.
Like, just everything was just so spot on. I was just really happy. I was thinking this was perfect for me.
Same here. I feel the exact same way. They seem to, like, Filoni and Favreau and Lucas all working together on this show. Mm-hmm. Mostly Favreau and Filoni, but they bring Lucas in for consulting and getting his ideas, and he's the mastermind of the whole thing. But the way that they work together and think outside the box but still make it work for, because they are true fans, to be honest, and
Yes.
they know what other fans are expecting and what's right and what to do and how to do it. So for them to make the show, and then being a part of other shows, and the Bad Batch are coming, and things like that, so it's just fantastic, all the things that are coming Star Wars wise.
I completely agree. And yeah, I mean, everything was great. We loved it. We loved the ending. We are excited for more. What's Mando's fate? Is he going to fight Bo-Katan? Is he going to join them? Is he going to learn their ways? Like, what is going to be the next step for Mando and his journey? And Bo-Katan, since that's taken place. We have this new show, Rangers of the New Republic. What is that going to focus on? I don't think Cara Dune is going to leave this show and join that show. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where they focus on. And is Luke going to be more prominent in that show? Are we going to see more of the training on Grogu? I'm sure Grogu's going to be coming back. We're going to see more of him. We know Mando's going to go visit him at some point. Maybe it'll be 5 years later, 10 years later, and he's got a lightsaber, he's talking now, whatever. But we know we're going to see more of him, whether it's in a movie or it's going to be, in shows. We're definitely going to see more. And then we have the Ahsoka show, and we know that she's on the hunt for Thrawn. We know that there's supposed to be a live-action Thrawn and Ezra show. Is that the Ahsoka show? Is it all supposed to be one and the same? Or are they doing a separate Thrawn and Ezra show that will cross over with Ahsoka? That is still, wait to be seen.
Up in the air. Yeah, they haven't been announced or anything like that.
But we know that Thrawn and Ezra will be in live action, and so we assume they will debut in the Ahsoka show, especially because she's on the hunt for them, and maybe that's where Sabine will appear. And hopefully, she'll be there as a Padawan to Ahsoka as they're going on their journey. So it'll be great to know kind of what happens there. And then we have this new Book of Boba Fett show where there's so many things, so many stories, so many adventures that he can go on. Cobb Vanth had his armor. Are they going to meet? He's living on Tatooine as a marshal, upholding their own law. If he's taking over as the new leader of crime,
boss kind of thing.
Is he going to start making things tough for the town? Are they going to butt heads? It's going to be an interesting situation, kind of what's going to show up there. So many possibilities. It was so great. We predicted the possibility of Luke showing up, as well as a couple others, so we were kind of good there. Like, it wasn't completely someone out of left field. We predicted Thrawn showing up. That didn't happen. We predicted that Moff Gideon would survive at the end. I thought he would escape, but he didn't. He got taken into custody. I said the only person, if anyone would die, would be Fennec Shand, and I guess because they decided to have their own show, she didn't die.
She's gonna be part of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, kudos to them. Definite must-watch show for those. Like, if you're holding out, like, there's so crucial episodes. You definitely want to see Luke in his prime. You definitely want to see this emotion that was so earned from Mando over the season, getting him to, remove his helmet and, change who he is. This rigid, I'm here to get my bounty. I'm here for myself, to, Grogu is my world. He means more to me than my whole, religion, as he calls it, right? It was just such a touching moment, and I thought there's nothing better than the way that they designed this and kind of where they went down. But what are your final thoughts here?
No, I agree. This is one of the series where it's integral to the canon story. It's very entertaining. The stories are great. A must watch for sure. I kind of just wish they would start releasing them on Blu-ray or DVD. I want to collect the seasons as well and put it part of my collection. So hopefully down the line they do that as well, because this is something I want to keep forever. Even
I'm sure they will. It's more money for their pockets.
Or anything. Exactly. But so it'll be interesting to see if and when they do that, and how. Even the last season of Clone Wars, they haven't released that or anything. So. All these things being released on they're so well done. I want to keep them forever in my collection, and so that's how much I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's great. So, I mean, there you heard it, folks. Those are our thoughts on what we felt about this season, this show, this episode. It was just great along for the ride. We're so excited and optimistic for the future of Star Wars as a whole, for this show, for the other shows. But we're interested in what you thought. If you saw the episode, let us know. Were you happy with how they portrayed the characters, how they ended things with Grogu and Mando, where they ended things with the different kind of character story arcs? Were you disappointed with anything? Are you happy? What are your predictions for the future? Let us know. We're very excited to hear that. We're not going to go into future predictions for the shows at this point. We might do a separate video at a later time, but maybe as we get closer to the next season, which, by the way, will be season 3 will be next year, end of the year, probably October timeframe. And we know the Boba Fett show is going to be airing right after in December, so be prepared for those 2 shows. We know Andor is filming. Is expected to be 2022. Obi-Wan Kenobi is already starting to film. If not now, it's in January. So that show could potentially come out next year as well. And then we know the Ahsoka show is still far out. Will probably be 2022 as well. And the other shows that they mentioned. So I'm really excited, but let us know. Drop a comment below, like the video, subscribe if you'd like to support us. As we are approaching the Christmas holidays, we probably will be taking a break for a couple of weeks from videos, but don't worry, we have lots of plans for the new year, some fun videos, and some other things. Of course, we'll also be diving into reviewing the new Marvel series that are coming out on Disney+, WandaVision, any upcoming movies like Wonder Woman, Black Widow, etc. So if there's anything that you'd like us to cover other than the usual superhero, Star Wars genres, please send us an email at nerdstalkinfo@gmail.com. And like I said, as we're expanding and we're looking at more creative things to discuss, we love to hear your feedback, and we'd love to kind of do some more stuff based on what you'd like to see. So let us know. And as always, friends,
Definitely.
stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.